So y'all want to know about that man Cain? He's a bad, bad man.
His son was the first ever blacksmith, whom is quite the famous man. Alright, so let's get into the esoterica. So pretty much everything we know about Cain comes from Genesis and the book of Jubilees. The first thing that's clear and apparent is he slayed his brother Abel because he was a hustler. After this, Cain was cursed and sent off as a wanderer, allegedly with Awan, his sister, who became his wife, and they bore a child named Hanok, right? And where he settled, he built a city, and he named the city after his son Hanok. After this, Cain died in his home, which we know was made of stone. His home fell upon him, it collapsed. Then after this, all we're pretty much told about is his descendants from Hanok, Irad, Mahuel, Methusael, Lamech, Jabal, who was the father of those who dwell in tents and raise cattle, and his brother Jubal, the father of those who play string instruments and flute-like instruments, and then Tubal-Cain, the first ever blacksmith. People say that Cain and his descendants disappeared at the time of the deluge, but the only place they disappeared from was the Eurasian continent because they went to America. The only massive stone cities which I know of that was executed with wonderful masonry is in America. The Mayan Tikal in its glory would have looked something like this, truly magnificent. Now pay attention to that name, Tikal, as Tubal-Cain in the Hebrew language would render in the Urdu-Aztecan language family as Tikal-Khan. Now the Mayans didn't speak Urdu-Aztecan, but we find that the Urdu-Aztecan language is very similar to the Mayan languages, and they lived amongst each other, so the speakers most likely exchange words in Mesoamerica. And we find that Semitic is very similar to Urdu-Aztecan, right? They share common root words with same meaning, and we often find B is switched to K. So Tubal wouldn't be Tubal, but Tikal most likely, and Cain wouldn't be Cain, but Khan. Now we must understand that the pre-Diluvian figures were a lot different than modern humans. They lived longer lives, right? We find that they were living some 100 years according to the Bible. Now, if you look at Nimrod, for example, right? We find that the Mesopotamians, they depicted him to be a giant. Look at how he's holding that lion, made that lion look like a pussycat. And if we look at the Cushites whom Nimrod descended from, these people are the epitome of giants. What's more, in the Mexican oral tradition, they talked about their country being peopled by giants before the Great Deluge and even after the Great Deluge with one of the giants, Shalua, right? He was an architect, a builder, and built an artificial pyramid. Zechariah Sitchin in the Lost Book of Enki mentioned that Cain and his descendants settled in the land beyond the seas, which is America. Like this video and comment.